Right, welcome back, everybody. And now to our final session, our finale, the $1 million idea. Do you have $1 million idea? How do you know if you've got $1 million idea? That's the topic of this next session.
Welcome everybody. Thank you. And we started off with Bill Murray, who armed us with tools that we could validate problems for real customers. And then we moved over to Chris Fox, who provided the blueprint for structuring our solutions into a viable business model. And now we're going to tie it all together in this final, very much interactive session. We're going to get you to do some work, and we're going to explore the idea of the $1 million idea with my colleague Simon, who is also a co-founder of 12 Ronnies. So,
Chris, just before we start,
yes.
how do people, if people want a recording of this, how can they get a recording?
Well, there's going to be a recording, which hopefully this is being recorded, just to remind everybody. I think it is. And you can get a recording of this session for free for 24 hours after we post it at some point on Saturday afternoon in the UK. And it will come down it won't be available to look at for free at midnight Pacific time in the USA. So that will be 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday.
Where will it be? Will people be notified?
Well, yes, there'll be an email that goes out that reminds you that that's what's going to happen. And if you want to have the videos to watch at your own convenience beyond the weekend, then you have to upgrade to our VIP ticket so you can get the whole VIP experience, which isn't just videos. There's also some free gifts and some other opportunities to chat with us along with that. So VIP,
that's the $27 ticket.
That's the $27 thing. So make sure you check that out. There's lots of good things that you can get hold of if you decide to become a VIP. So let's get cracking. So Simon, you argue that any $1 million idea, regardless of what it means to the founder, I mean, because everybody thinks they're going to have an idea which is worth $1 million, I guess, must stand on three universal pillars. So maybe you could tell us what those universal pillars are.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Before I answer your question directly, let's talk about the concept of the $1 million idea. So the $1 million idea is a term, and it's not, in most cases, literal. Because what does that mean? Does that mean your idea, your ambition for your idea is to turn over $1 million, $1 million revenue, or is it $1 million profit? We're not looking at the exact figure. What we're looking at is your aspiration for your idea. Now, in most cases, what that'll mean to you is it's your really big idea. So the concept of the $1 million idea is your really, really big idea. The thing that enables you to do something to achieve the goals that you want. So as an example, you might want to start a business that gives you a wonderful lifestyle, lots of vacations as well as money. So you're wanting a lifestyle business. So you're needing to define your $1 million idea to do with what is your goals? What is your lifestyle goals here? So some people want to start a business and make millions and millions and millions. That's slightly different and work really hard for it. That's slightly different than having an idea that you're turning into a lifestyle business. So the first thing, before I answer the three aspects that Chris talked about there, is what we're talking about when we say $1 million idea is this is your big one. You may have more than one, but what is the big idea that gives you your big goals here? And there are three aspects to them, and we've been talking about the first two aspects in the talk from Bill and the talk from Chris. And these are fundamental. These aspects are fundamental, the first two, to any $1 million idea. You need to validate the idea. And what validation, the crux, the essence of validation that Bill was talking about is you have to be able to go and speak to customers or communicate with customers engage with customers. It could be online, it could be through collecting wait lists, as we talked about earlier, but it's customer data. The reason why that is so important, this means it's an idea for you. If you can't speak to customers, if you can't with customers about your idea, it's not the idea for you. So a lot of people come to us at 12 Ronnies with their ideas, and they show what a vast market, untapped market there is, or what's happening in a particular place. Say, this is just a brilliant opportunity. But many times they can't actually validate the opportunity because they're unable to find a channel to the customers that they're expecting to buy their idea. So the first and most important part, and I would say this is the most important part of your $1 million idea, is getting validation data that it's an idea for you. So it's doing all the things that Bill talked about here, but that shows it's an idea that people want, that you can communicate with people about and get responses. That's the first part, Chris.
Okay. So what's the second part then?
So the second is what Chris Fox was talking about. You've got a great idea that you can communicate with people about. You've seen that it solves a problem and that they're interested. But now, in order to reach your $1 million goal, you need to turn that into a viable business. And not all ideas that you can communicate about can be turned into viable businesses. But what Chris showed, using things like the business model canvas, is there are these aspects of a business that if you can fill in all those boxes about it, and you can make it work, and you can make the business model work, and you can work on that, then what you have is the foundations of the business of your $1 million idea. So one is the idea itself and the customers. The other's the infrastructure around the business that makes it work.
Okay, so we've got the first and the second pillars. So what's the third?
Well, the third one is scale and scaling. If it's only a little market, if there aren't many people to sell it to, you haven't got a $1 million idea. You haven't got that big idea. So this is all about scale. And there are certain ways to look at that, but it has to do with your aspirations now, your $1 million aspiration, and can it reach that scale? Really scalable ideas, let's say like Uber or Airbnb, they had scalable markets for their idea. They had an idea, they could communicate with customers. It was the right idea for them. They could build a business model, and it was scalable. So the really important part, once you've done the other parts of validating and the business model, is making sure your idea is big enough and scalable enough to meet your needs. Now, the other thing I will add to this is most scalable big ideas need external investment at some stage. I'm a big fan, 12 Ronnie, we're all big fans of bootstrapping. We're all big fans of getting off the ground, bootstrapping. But if you have a $1 million idea, most of the time, you're going to need some outside investment at some stage to scale it. So that $1 million idea also has to be a $1 million idea for investors. So you've now got to think about what they're dreaming of for an idea. And their dreams are slightly different. Theirs are almost certainly to do with money. So they're wanting something that they can get a return on, but it's also a return they see. Investors want to be able to see money coming in for them quickly, either through a quick exit route. They don't want to wait around for 30 years for an exit while you're enjoying your lifestyle business. They want an exit route, or they want money coming in from your idea pretty soon so that they get returns. So you've got to think about your $1 million idea, not just in terms of how it achieves your dreams. You've got to think about it. How does it achieve the dreams of the investors? So what do they want? And you have to marry them up. So not all ideas are $1 million ideas. Most aren't. to be honest. Most ideas that people have, the idea that Chris Fox showed about the bicycle shop, for a lot of people, that wouldn't be their $1 million idea. For a lot of people, having a local bicycle shop, working hard at developing a business that gives a steady income, but you're not really going to scale it into, or most people won't be scaling it unless the idea was to have multiple bike shops and things like that. So that isn't a particularly scalable idea. And if you were looking to franchise it and really build out lots of bike shops, you're going to need investors, and you're going to have to show them it's their $1 million idea as well. How are they going to get their returns? What's the exit route? So these are the three components.
Okay. Well, those pillars are very clear. Thank you, Simon. And we spent some time discussing them, and it feels like a good framework for people to think about when they're developing their $1 million ideas. So for everybody who's watching, who's been inspired today to think about their own $1 million ideas, what's the journey from here on? I mean, what do they do from this moment forward?
So you have an idea. Let's say, is it a $1 million idea? Well, you can go testing whether it's a $1 million idea without spending money. Just take time. So you start with validating that it's the right idea for you. How do you validate? The sorts of things Bill was talking about. So you might collect a wait list to see that there's a proper problem there with the people that you think you're solving the problem for, your customer segment. So you can start immediately on your million idea without building anything, because eventually when you need to build things, or you need investors' money to build things, you're going to have to show that there's customers, that people are interested, you're solving a problem, and you can get to those people. And investors, what they really want is sales. Investors want to scale sales. But if you're at the idea stage, the best thing you can do is collect data, collect evidence that it's a good idea, that it's solving a problem. So that's the starting point. Write down your ideas, see the ones that you can actually validate, and then order them in the order of where you think they are the most scalable ideas. So you've got the ideas you can tackle, and you've got those ones that you can tackle that are scalable. And that's how you start, Chris.
Okay. And I guess we're walking the walk with the $1 Million Idea Conference, aren't we? Essentially, this is a pilot because we plan to run more $1 Million Idea conferences, at a much bigger scale. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, it's as you mentioned, we're running this pilot at a small scale. So there's three of us talking today. We're going to be running another conference, another $1 Million Idea Conference. They won't all be called $1 Million Ideas, but we're going to keep this series of conferences going until we've explored all the avenues that contribute towards $1 Million Ideas. So we haven't talked about execution of $1 Million Ideas through marketing or all the different aspects of building the business. So our next conference in September that we'll be running, we'll be talking about moving on from having these $1 Million ideas to how do we start to execute them? Now we've got a business model, how do we execute the business model for scalable ideas? Because we know that we're going to need to also at some stage find investment. So we've got to do the right things and put the right things in place. So yeah,
that's really exciting. Yeah, thank you. And we'll just make sure that everybody that's come along today gets to hear about that, because you may well want to come to that as well. So we'll give you more information about our September event when it's ready. So thank you. So we're going to do something really interactive now and get you involved by putting things in the chat. 12 Ronnies at my particular LinkedIn account, we've been running a few polls every day this week. So that's 5 polls, these little mini surveys to explore the idea of, or the concept of $1 Million Ideas. So I'm going to ask you in the audience, and I'm also going to ask Simon these questions to get your perspectives and to get your thoughts. And if you want to, in the audience, not only put your answers in the chat, but also go and have a look at my LinkedIn polls. I'll put my LinkedIn profile details in the chat at the end of the session. so that you can find me and then give your answers in there. All the polls are still live, so you can actually put your answers for real into those polls. So let's get cracking. What I want to do is to ask these 5 questions. And so the first one, which I guess we talked a little bit about, but I'm going to give you some options for these multiple choice answers. The question is, how would you define a $1 million idea? So number 1, and if you agree with this, put 1.1 in the chat so that we know that it's your answer number 1 for question number 1. So put 1.1 in the chat if you think that you define a $1 million idea because it solves a painful problem for a specific audience. Number 2, put 1.2 in the chat if you agree with this. It's got a huge market demand and growth potential. So number 3, do you define a $1 million idea by something that can be executed with low risk and high margins? If you agree with that, put 1.3 in the chat. And number 4 in the chat, if you think a $1 million idea is one that attracts customers, investors, and partners naturally. So Simon, where would your vote go?
Well, Chris, all of the above. All of the above. Without it solving a painful problem for a specific audience, it's not a great idea. It's never going to be a $1 million idea. End of story. Has a huge market? Well, that again is your aspiration. If your $1 million idea is an awful lot of money, it's the big one, then you need a huge market with growth potential. So that's needed as well. Can it be executed with low risk and high margins? Well, that one is less important than the other ones. But this is the sort of business model that investors like. So it's making lots of money. This is their $1 million idea. So be really aware that leads to the investor one. So if you're really looking for a big $1 million idea, that's important. And yes, it has to attract customers. If you're wanting investors.
Yeah,
Partners are an important part of growing scalable ideas. So all of the above, but one and 2 are particularly important.
yeah, we're getting some feedback in the chat, which is good. Gareth agrees with you that it's all of them. He's put 1.2, 1.3, 1.3, or 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4 in the chat. Eugene again says he agrees with all of them. Gareth has come back saying that essentially it should be a disruptive idea, which I guess is a 0.5. It's like another category is to say that a $1 million idea is one that disrupts things. And then Eugene is saying that that he's got an idea and they're currently implementing it. So maybe Eugene can share some more information about that later.
And we can talk about people's ideas in
yeah,
party as well.
We can do that in the Q&A later on. So let's go on to question 2. So the second question in our week of polls that we ran was, what's the biggest challenge in turning a $1 million idea into a successful business? So if you think it's the first one, put 2.1 in the chat. If you think it's the second one, put 2.2 and so on. So the first answer is to the question, what's the biggest challenge in turning a $1 million idea into a successful business? Is it 1, finding the right customers? 2, validating if anybody will pay for it? Or 3, building the right product or service? Or 4, raising the funding? But that last one, put 2.4 in the chat. You start to get the idea. So Simon, which of those do you think is the biggest challenge?
Well, if you have a good idea and it's the right idea for you, I don't think finding the right customers is going to be your biggest challenge. It's a lot of hard work, but that's the essence of your business. That's what you'll be doing when you start and grow the business. So I don't think that's your biggest challenge for the right idea. Validating if anyone will pay. Well, once you've got if it's the right idea for you, again, it's those customers, and validating whether anyone pay. It's the scientific methods that Bill was talking about, and it's just hard work. I don't think it's the biggest challenge. Building the product and service is a big challenge. And that's, I would say that's often the hard part. Most people, unfortunately, build the product and service first without finding the right customers and validating if anyone will pay. And they've got a massive challenge ahead of them then to try and deconstruct what they're doing and pivot. Raising funding. I think that's an enormous challenge. That's an enormous challenge, but can be overcome for your $1 million idea if you've done the validation work and can show the business model to make it the investor's $1 million idea. So it's a tough one, raising funding. I'd say that I might put as the hardest one, but you've probably had to done the first three first of all.
Yeah, Gareth thinks we're being a bit conservative. He thinks we should be talking about billion-dollar ideas.
Maybe that'll be our
That'll be the next
finale conference, the $1 billion idea.
Yeah. Okay, so question 3, and just a reminder that you can go and that Simon's answer to these is just Simon's thoughts. So if you think differently, that's perfectly fine. There's no all of these answers are kind of relevant. So if you think that differently to Simon, that's fine. And then just go and put your answers in the polls on YouTube. Yeah.
And for some ideas, it's easier to raise funding than others, for instance.
Yeah,
So
totally. That's right. I mean, it all depends on the idea, doesn't it? So, okay. So here's the third question: which of the following statements is closest to your view of what a great $1 million startup idea actually is? So, if you think it's number 1, put 3.1 in the chat, and that answer would be: ideas are overrated, execution wins every time. So if you think that, put 3.1. And if you think that
the question is which of the following statements is closest to your view?
That's right. Yeah. So if you think ideas are overrated, execution is more important than ideas, put 3.1. If you think that the right idea attracts customers, if you think that's the closest that you get to what $1 million startup idea is, put 3.2 in the chat. If you think timing is everything, put 3.3 in the chat. And if you think that great ideas emerge from customer conversations, put 3.4 in the chat. Which of those is just simply the biggest of the most important of those statements, Simon, I guess?
Yeah. Well, this one I come across all the time as a mentor. Ideas are overrated. Execution wins every time. The entrepreneur needs to execute on their ideas. That is really what entrepreneurship is. And it's often you start off with an idea, it doesn't work, but you're treating it as an experiment now. Entrepreneurs are experimenters. So they just keep executing on the next idea, the next change to it, testing the next hypothesis to do with their idea. So it's all in the execution. It's rare that somebody comes up with an idea and in the exact forms their $1 million idea business. It always changes somewhere along the line. So execution is everything. It's not the idea. The others are good parts for your $1 million idea. Timing is everything in some ways. But yeah, I would go execution wins every time.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. We've got 2 more questions to go. Make sure that you still keep putting those answers in the chat. So the next question, number 4. So, it'll be 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and 4.4 in the chat. So here we go. The question is, what's the first thing you test to see if an idea has real potential to be a $1 million idea? So 4.1 if you think it's talking to potential customers. 4.2 if you think it's checking the market size and your competition. 4.3 if you think it's building a simple prototype, or for asking mentors or advisors. So the question again, what do you think is the first thing you test to see if an idea has the potential to be a $1 million idea? So Simon, what would you test first?
I'd do what Bill would do. I'd talk to potential customers. There's nothing costly about that. It's the crux of any business's customers. And I would go talking to them. There's, as Bill alluded to, there's ways of talking to customers. And I don't know whether Bill mentioned about the mum test and the book, The Mum Test, but there's a really good book called The Mum Test, MOM, Mum test, and you can probably use your AI to give you a summary of that. But the essence of it is you wouldn't talk to customers and go, I've got this idea, what do you think? Because you're leading them, and they'll be nice to you. Usually you have to put it in a completely different way to get them to talk to you. And I won't go into the ins and outs of it, but it's putting them into the last time they had that problem and how did they solve it themselves, because generally most ideas is solving an existing problem that the customers are trying to solve in one way or another anyway. So yep, I would talk to potential customers. I wouldn't check market size and competition at that stage.
No, I guess no, because essentially the moment you launch, you're going to get competitors anyway. So if it's a decent idea that's making money, you're going to get competitors, even if there was nobody there to start with.
And I certainly wouldn't build a prototype, because who am I building it for? I haven't spoken to anybody yet, so I'm making a big assumption. Ask mentors or advisors. That's a hard one. I would speak to customers first, then talk to my mentors and advisors about what the customers said.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Simon. And as I say, do go. I'll put my LinkedIn thing in the chat later, so you can go and answer these questions for real in the polls we've been running all week. So this is the last question. There's still time to vote, so make sure you do so. So the last question, I guess, is a big one. I guess. What do you think is the scariest aspect of launching a startup that's based on $1 million idea? So if you think it's the first one, put 5.1 in the chat and so on. So what's the scariest thing? Number one, that no one wants what I build. Number two, running out of money. Number three, getting overwhelmed. Or four, failing publicly. So Simon, what would you find the most scariest out of all of those?
Well, the one I'd least like is to run out of money. I mean, failing publicly, that's almost a badge of honor for an entrepreneur, because it's not failing. It's you're testing business ideas. So it's part of the experiments. Getting overwhelmed, I would still prefer not to run out of money. No one wants what I build. Well, you'll run out of money if you build it and try to sell it. You'll eventually run out of money unless you've got very deep pockets. So for me personally, running out of money. But the good thing is, you can de-risk a lot of that by not spending money on building products until you validated your idea and have got, as Chris Fox talked about, a proper business model to deliver what your idea is solving. So yeah, you can de-risk the running out of money, but that's the part I would say, Chris.
Just as a bit of a joke, in the book trade, I've got a lot of experience in book publishing. There's a joke that like is as old as the hills, and the joke goes, what's the best way to make a small fortune in publishing? And the answer is start with a large one.
Start with a big, yeah.
So I guess that's also goes for $1 million ideas as well, doesn't it, Simon?
Yeah, it can help. It can help, but you don't need to. No, but you don't need a large amount of money at the beginning to test if you've got $1 million idea. You really don't.
But if you've not validated it, then you're going to end up with a small fortune rather than a large one, aren't you?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So I'll put my the links to those polls in the chat in a minute. But we've come to the end of the poll section. So as we're closing out this part of the conference, Simon, what would you say is your final message, first of all, and secondly, your call for action for everybody who's joined us today?
Yeah, I mean, my message to you is your $1 million idea and the aspirations you have will be different to other people's. So somebody, I'm going to ask for people, let's in the after party about their ideas, and we can talk about them and what they think is $1 million idea. But your one has to be a personal idea that you can execute. We talked about entrepreneurs executing. So you have to be able to get to that customer segment. You have to be able to validate it. It has to be a really big idea, or an idea big enough to meet your aspirations, your $1 million aspirations. So that's the key part of all of this. What Chris, you asked about what next?
The call to action. So, what would you like everybody to do as a result of listening to your talk together, and also something for them to do at the end of the conference?
Well, I think, Chris, what would, if people are really interested in what we've been talking about today, and this is something that 12 Ronnies do a lot of, we build entrepreneurs. So we don't just focus on helping you launch a single idea. What we do is we build entrepreneurs so that you can go out there and find new $1 million ideas and start to validate them, put the business models behind them, get them ready for investment, all of those types of things if you're going to take that route. So what we're doing, I believe you're running a masterclass next week, aren't you, Chris?
Yes, it's not on the Monday, it's actually on Tuesday. So Tuesday next week on the 24th of June at 5 o'clock UK time, which is midday Eastern time in the States. Come and join me for an hour. I'll chat for a bit, and then we'll have some like we've had today, and then I can tell you about what we're planning on doing after the masterclass as well. So there's plenty to look forward to.
It's Startup Secrets Revealed, isn't it? You're revealing some
Startup
startup
Secrets
secrets.
Revealed is what it's called, and it's all about what it takes to be an entrepreneur, and specifically to be a successful entrepreneur who's capable of having $1 million ideas. So
Yeah.
So come and find out on Tuesday.
Good.
So there we go. That's where we're at the end of this particular.
If anybody has any questions before we do, once
we've
we go to the after party, we'll allow everybody to jump into the Zoom, and we can also do some breakout rooms if needed. And that'll be in 25 minutes time. But meanwhile, we've got a few minutes. If anybody's got any questions, I'm happy to take questions.
I'm just scrolling back to see what people have said, because essentially lots of people have put lots of things in the chat because we asked them to. And I'm trying to make sure that we
Gareth, I can just see you've asked, are we going to talk about your idea in the after party? Yes, if you're able to stick around.
So that starts in, as Simon said, in 25 minutes time. So if you're able to join us in 25 minutes time, we can chat then. I'm just Amber has asked a question.
Yes.
So she says, does $1 million idea necessarily need to solve a problem? So, for example, sometimes founders leverage their resources and reputation to rebrand an existing market product. So, for example, a beauty products and wellness products, which might not necessarily be better products, but because they're run by an influencer or whatever, then people follow them. So would you agree that they didn't really solve a problem or address a gap, but there were other reasons why they launched that particular business? What would you say to that, Simon?
And a business idea and $1 million business idea has to solve a problem. It's solving a problem for customers. You might be doing, your route to market might be different. You might be using influencers and other ways of doing it, but ultimately it has to solve a problem for customers or they won't buy it. If a transaction is taking place, it needs to solve a problem for the people who are parting with money.
Yeah. I guess if you're a really famous celebrity, I guess that's part of the transaction. But most people aren't. So it's kind of mere mortals are going to have to solve problems, aren't they? So otherwise, you're going to have some very angry people wanting their money back if it doesn't solve the problem that you promised that it's going to. So, yeah. Okay. So Mario's saying he's commenting on the idea of what $1 million idea is, and he's saying, who is that going to? What does it mean? What does it mean to expand on the idea of what $1 million idea is, Simon? Because we were talking before about whether it's a lifetime or whether it's something that you earn $1 million every year. That's a very different thing, isn't it?
Sorry, say that again, Chris. I was just trying to. I mean,
the idea of $1 million idea encompasses quite a lot of different things. I mean, so if you're earning $1 million over 40 years, then that's very different to earning $1 million a year, isn't it? So
and this is why I said right at the beginning of my talk that it's about your aspiration. So it's not the exact figure of the lifetime value of an idea is $1 million. It's what does $1 million idea mean to you? What transformation does it make for you? And that could be $10 million turnover over 3 years or something like that, and with an exit, or it could be much bigger, or it could be a lot more than $1 million, but spread over 30 years. It's your dream, your aspiration.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Ramsey's come up with an interesting question. He's saying, or they're saying, I'm not quite sure. I've not come across that name before, so please do, bear with me if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. They're saying that what happens if your $1 million idea actually pollutes the environment or damages things, or poisons or enslaves people in the developing world? I mean, what's your view about ethics, Simon?
Yeah, well, okay. So it can still be $1 million idea, but it wouldn't be my dream idea, and it wouldn't be something I would want to promote or be associated with. Maybe for some people who don't have the same or don't have the normal ethics that most people live by, that might be their $1 million idea, but most of us wouldn't entertain an idea like that, however much money it makes.
Yeah, and I guess you're going to get lots of protesting and bad PR and stuff as well, aren't you?
Yeah, and it still might make lots of money, but
Yeah.
that's your choice. It wouldn't be my, again, your $1 million idea is personal to you. It's not a $1 million idea for everybody, and the execution of it is not everybody can execute it.
Okay, thank you, and thank you to Rabsig for the question. So Eugene making a comment that $1 million ideas need good legal support, and Simon, maybe you could just comment on the reasons why people need good lawyers if they've got $1 million ideas.
Well, sometimes if you've got a really good idea, people will try and steal it off you, and they will try to compete with you. And not all competition is fair and unscrupulous. So if you have $1 million idea, then you want to be able to protect it and enforce the protection you have. So that's the main reason for having good lawyers. But right at the beginning, I wouldn't hide your idea, really, really, unless it's a new scientific discovery, which the sort of thing that you would get a patent for. What you want to do is tell the whole world. You want to find your customer segments and tell everybody about it. It's hard enough finding customers, and saying, well, I'm not going to tell anybody till they sign an NDA is not a great idea. But if you have $1 million idea and you tell people about it, be prepared to compete. And yeah, a good legal team might come in handy if it's a really good idea.
I guess the other thing, just jumping in a little bit, Simon, is I mean, to take the example of OpenAI launching ChatGPT 2 or 3 years ago, that came out of, I mean, obviously, if you worked in AI, you would know about that kind of thing. But to the general public, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it got really, really popular very quickly. But what happened subsequently is that loads of people reacted to it. So there's now loads of competitors. And what then happened about 6 months ago, I suppose, is that DeepSeek came out saying you can have all of this for free. So they've moved the goalposts a bit. So I guess these things are always developing, aren't they, Simon?
Well, they are. ChatGPT was $1 million idea, without doubt, for Sam Altman and his team. But it wouldn't have been $1 million idea for me. I couldn't have made that work. So again, yeah, I've got this really good idea. It can make an absolute fortune. Well, it has to be an idea for you that you can make work as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Okay. We're kind of wrapping up a little bit. We've got one last question and
Yeah.
a comment. Sarah's come back and she wants to know if $1 million idea can be one that's entertaining.
Yeah, of course, of course. I mean, Sarah, I'm assuming you mean
Glossing it a bit, she says, wouldn't a problem be wanting to be entertained? So if you're a customer and you want to be entertained,
yeah,
but
you're solving a problem. Yeah, you're definitely solving something for your customer. You're entertaining them. That's what people want. It's a big thing people want, and that's why the entertainment industry turns over lots of money. People spend a lot of their free time wanting to be entertained. So yes, Sarah.
okay, the comments from Pramsleg again, who says he wants to know if you've seen the environmental film The Ocean by David Attenborough.
I haven't, but I want to see that. I really want to see that.
I guess their idea might be something that, there's the same person who was asking about the environment earlier on. So I would imagine that's a big concern.
No, I really want to see that film, but I haven't seen it.
Okay. And one last question, one last comment from Eugene, and then we'll wrap up, ready for the the after party later on. And do bring your $1 million ideas to talk about, and we'll bring everybody on camera later on to chat in the room. Eugene is saying that if you've basically, he's saying that, you know, if people have $1 million ideas. Oh, okay, yeah. Thanks, Ramsig. Thanks for the clarification. Yes, Ramsig is female, so that's good to know. Thank you. So Eugene says that quite often, if you've got a $1 million idea and it works well, then you get bought, you know, and somebody gives you lots of money to go away because they essentially, you know, you exit from the company. So maybe you could say something a bit about that, Simon, and that's actually quite a good way to close this conversation.
Yeah, and if generally that would be the sort of $1 million idea, not just for you. If your $1 million idea is to earn lots of money and then move on and do something else, that's $1 million idea. But that's also $1 million idea for an investor. That's what they want. They want an exit route. So that ticks the boxes for both the entrepreneur and the investor.